The Monsterverse comes back in full force with Kong versus Godzilla, or Godzilla versus Kong. The epic showdown that is the conclusion? I don't think this is a conclusion. To the Monsterverse, which has spanned Godzilla, Kong Skull Island, and Godzilla King of the Monsters. And before I dive into this one, I should probably express my thoughts on what I thought about the first three. They're all varying degrees of meh. Like, I thought Godzilla was decent, I thought Kong Skull Island was alright, and I thought King of the Monsters was meh. They're all varying degrees of whatever. So, I wasn't, super anticipating this movie. Like, if I had made a top 10 list of my anticipated films, this wouldn't have even been close to the list. I wasn't even planning to see this film, but I got to see it early for free, so I decided to take a crack at it, and I'm not gonna lie, I was really worried in the first half hour. The first half hour of this is boring as hell. So little happens in the first act of this film that is remarkable. I was watching this film, I was literally, the first 30 minutes of this movie, I was on my phone most of the time because I was so bored. The human characters aren't interesting, what they're doing isn't interesting, and Godzilla has barely shown up, and Kong's doing jack shit. So, I got really worried that this was going to be a real slog of a film. But at the 40-minute mark, we get our first fight between Godzilla and Kong. And while it's not particularly that great, word got caught in my throat. It's not particularly that great of a fight. It at least sets everything into motion. The action picks up, the story, as thin a one as there is, starts to pick up. The human characters start to have some actual relevance. And yeah, it's not like it makes the movie make any more sense, but it makes it more enjoyable. It makes it less of a completely boring film, because I recently just a few days ago watched Zack Snyder's Justice League, and I was bored for the first 3 hours of that film. I'll have a review of that up soon, but I wanted to get this one out since I got to see this early, so I'm gonna get my review out, and then in a couple days I'll probably have my Justice League one up. I did start to film my Justice League one a few days ago, but I scrapped it because I didn't like it. I didn't like the review. So yeah, look forward to that. But I'm getting off track here. So I can't even call this a plot. This has almost no story to it. It's just a sequence of random events happen. This movie's an hour 50, I want to say. And it feels like I watched it for about 45 minutes. Probably because the first half hour I was so bored I wasn't even paying attention anymore. And the rest of it's just jumping from one fight, then something here, then another fight, then something here, then another fight, then another fight, and something like that until the movie ends. It basically turns into Man of Steel at the end. So I was surprised that this movie wasn't that bad. The human characters, like I said, they're boring, and especially this one, deaf little girl who can't be older than 6 has this, connection with Kong. I can't remember if this is something from Skull Island. I don't know. And this little girl seems to have some kind of connection with Kong. And God, I just did not care. Every single time there was a cool fight scene going on, it would cut back to this little kid worried about Kong. So it's the little kid who has no facial expressions. And it's not like the kid's acting was terrible, but it's there was no purpose here. There's no purpose to this character. And I guess she's supposed to feel sad that Kong's, when Kong gets hurt or something, and she's supposed to be worried about Kong. But I don't care, you're distracting from the cool fight scene happening 30 feet away. And especially with the characters like Millie Bobby Brown's character from Godzilla King of the Monsters is in this for fuck knows what reason. And with her is the kid from Deadpool 2. I can't remember if he was in King of the Monsters, but he probably was. And they go off with this, like, guy who, like, runs a podcast or something, this black guy. And at first I was really bored with what they were doing, and there was also a callback to the... I guess I can kind of call it a callback. I'm not sure how many people even noticed this. But kind of a callback to the god-awful 1998 Robert Zemeckis Godzilla. And you've probably figured out what it is just by me saying that. So, yeah, but then that didn't come up again, which was weird. And honestly, what they were doing was really boring. They had no stake in this plot whatsoever. The black guy did have a few funny lines, though. Like, one line in particular I like is when they break into this place. Or it's like, this place is basically trying to take down Kong and Godzilla. And he's like, they break into this, like, high-tech facility. He's like, you know what, if this wasn't being used for global destruction, this would make one hell of a DJ booth. I don't know why that was actually really fun. Like, that whole scene was kind of funny. Because he gets a few funny lines, but everyone else just doesn't. It's like, they don't have any good... Like, I wouldn't mind if the characters were boring if they had some... Like, these are all passive characters. And passive characters aren't inherently bad, but they are inherently way more boring. And that's the problem that they had with Jyn Erso in Rogue One or Spider-Man in Far From Home. Some of my biggest problems with those films is that the main character is a very passive character. They don't influence the story at all. They react to events taking place within the story. And these characters can be written well, but these characters aren't written... Like, their dialogue isn't that bad, even though half the time what they're saying makes absolutely no sense. Like... So what they're saying makes no sense, but they're still, I guess, likable characters, except for a few of them, but they're intentionally unlikable. And... yeah, I just didn't care about any of these goddamn human characters. I didn't care what they were thinking. I didn't care what they were doing. I didn't want to know what they were doing. And... yeah, but the main drawing point of this movie is the fights between Kong and Godzilla, and they're pretty good. They're well choreographed, they're well shot. The destruction in this doesn't bother me as much as it did in Man of Steel, because there are two giant... like, you have a giant monkey fighting a giant dinosaur. You cannot have that and not have some destruction to it. Man of Steel just did it just to be gratuitous, just because it's a Zack Snyder film and he needs more explosions and more people being killed, I guess. I don't know. I don't know what's wrong with Zack Snyder. I don't know what's going on in that fucked up head of his, but Kong and Godzilla, they get away with it because they're these two giant entities moving around. That was one thing I had with the Tokyo fight early on. You know, the big, like, neon-looking one from the trailer. It's like, at first they were in this, like, really enclosed area because they were fighting, and there were, like, 10 different buildings around them, all within the span of about maybe 20 square feet of each other. And it was like trying to fight in a pinball machine. It was ridiculous. Every time they moved, their back would, like, crash into a building, or they would hit a building instead of hitting each other. But thankfully they moved out of the way of that for a little bit, and I liked seeing Kong jump from building to building. I thought that was actually really cool. And I want a live-action Kong movie, another one, to have him on top of the Empire State Building, other than the Peter Jackson King Kong from 2005? 2005, yeah. So, if you really like the Monsterverse, you'll probably have a fun time with this. I haven't been a huge fan of the Monsterverse. I'm not that big on these monster movies to begin with. I thought it was alright. I can't really foresee myself watching this again, but this was still a pretty enjoyable film. The last hour was enjoyable. The first act, you can just skip the first act altogether. You're not missing much. There's no plot happening. There's no character development. There's nothing exciting. Just skip the first act of this movie. And, like, the last hour, just watch that, and you'll be fine. You'll have seen Kong versus Godzilla. So that's if that sounds enticing, you go ahead and see it. I'm gonna go 3.3 out of 5. Job okay done, guys. Thank you all so much for watching. Be sure to hit that like button down below. Be sure to hit the subscribe button for more reviews like this. And I'll have my Justice League video coming up in a couple days. It's likely. Comment down below what you thought of Kong vs. Godzilla. Well, when you see it. The film hasn't come out yet. It doesn't come out till Wednesday. And I'll probably have this review up on Tuesday. So, yeah, what do you think of the Monsterverse so far? Do you like the Godzilla movies? Do you like the Kong movie? Do you like one of the Godzilla movies and one of the Kong movies, but not one of the Godzilla movies? Let me know in the comments below. So, that's all I'm going to say. I'll see you all next time. Bye.